What's up, man? So it's looking like it's showing up on X. Okay, yeah, it's there. Okay.
Is there?
I like it looked like it was like this is not available or something like that. So I just want to make sure we didn't have a technical difficulties. But we'll give it a minute or two. Ginty was robbed. We know how you feel about the Heisman. Spoiler alert of some Heisman talk coming if you didn't catch that from the name or the not the name, the
Yep.
title. How's your Saturday been?
It's been good. The first Saturday that I've had in a while that did not involve hours and hours and hours of college football, which is kind of a sad reality. Maybe my wife feels differently and she's cool with that, but I miss it, man. Just
Yeah,
games on all day. It's hard to beat.
yeah, yeah. No, it definitely. My day was good. Just a spoiler alert or a disclaimer for those of you watching on the live stream. On the podcast, will be easy able to edit it out, but I might have to dip out and go. I'm on baby duty, so if my little man Campbell is uh, is crying, then I will go because my whole family has been sick this weekend. So professional, but hey, dad over podcaster. So
Dad
anyway,
over podcast.
we've grown from 2 to 3 Russian bots. So um, let's get after it here. We're coming to you guys live a little bit later tonight than normal. Part logistical, part mostly logistical, I would say, for our schedules. But so those of you on the East Coast are most likely sleeping, but if not, hopefully the baritone in our voices will lull you to sleep over the next 4 to 5 hours. Just kidding. Anyway, all right, let's get going. Welcome to the Sideline Podcast. My name is Kevin Showalter. My co-host is Jared Booker. We're two best friends. We've been going at it on this podcast since the start of this college football season, and it has been an absolute blast. We are mourning the loss of college football, but we're still going to continue to bring new episodes, new content. One of our primary leagues is a Campus of Canton dynasty type league, and so our wives don't want to hear this, but the league is going all year round. We're already thinking about drafts. We're thinking about things in the off season. Our NFL teams are still going. So college football regular season is complete, but we are still here to help you create some unbeatable fantasy football teams. So for those of you joining for the first time, we like to start with some trivia. And so if you want to pull that up, I've got some questions for you. These aren't too difficult. I went somewhat easy on you.
Before you start, you say that, but like this rivalry, I probably know the least amount about this rivalry, so I will probably still be 0 for 2. But thank you for setting me up there.
Well, my thought was it's really an A or B. Spoiler, it's not C. I mean, they've played like 125 years. Like, there's no way it's tied. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm just trying to distract you. Anyway, which team today was Army Navy game? The only Division One game getting played today. So I thought our trivia question should be Army Navy related. And sidebar, we'll get into that here in a little bit. But which team has the most wins in this series all time? I think they've been playing for like 125 years or something like that. Which team has the series lead? Army or B Navy?
Well, thank you for eliminating C for me. I'm going to go Navy. B Navy. It's just a guess.
You are correct. You are correct. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. I believe it's like they've won it 60 times. Army's won it like 39, something like that, which I don't know how those
Okay.
numbers shake out, but Army's numbers might be higher than 39 because I think they played more than 100 times. But yeah, that one was decently easy. The main reason I think is easy is because I think Navy is more well respected as a football team in general, or at least in our lifetime. It seems like Navy has had more respectable teams. Obviously, um, this year Army has been on the cusp of the college football playoff, and Yeah, they've looked like the real deal this year. But yeah, in general, I think Navy seems to have been the better team. So that checks out. Again, we haven't followed this that closely, but I think I can just click here. Here we go. All right, so number 2. I was shocked you didn't. Never mind. I'm going to give away the answer. Which NFL coach's dad coached running backs for 33 years at Navy? Was it A, Vince Lombardi, B, Bill Walsh, C, Sean McVay, or D, Bill Belichick?
I'm going because of what you just said, I'm going D, Bill Belichick.
You rascal. I knew I was like, I shouldn't. There's so much in the news this week about him and the Brutes that I thought this one was a layup. But then pre-show, you were talking of like, I'm stumped. Like, I don't know what's going on here. So I should just ask the question. But well, anyway, that is our trivia for this week. Let's see here. Okay, so the floor is now yours. Tonight was the Heisman ceremony. Officially, Travis Hunter has won, and we've been pretty steady, I would say. Almost, we even talked about like, man, do we need to lay off the Travis Hunter? Like, we're not a Travis Hunter podcast, but it's just we've had obviously a lot of people on the internet have a lot to say about this topic, and so we've enjoyed the dialogue, arguments, retorts, all of the above. Yeah, the Heisman Trophy tonight. Travis Hunter is the winner. We're just going to give you a few minutes here to stew, retort, give us why Genty was robbed. Just let it out, Book. Let it out, man.
Oh, man. All right. So for the 5 of you here, plus my best friend, Kevin, I think that we both knew that Travis Hunter was going to take the Heisman. As you said earlier in a text, Vegas doesn't build hotels because they're wrong often. So with Travis Hunter being the favorite, I think we both knew what was coming. He is at an up-and-coming school. Colorado hasn't really been on the radar until Deion Sanders showed up. Boise State is in the Mountain West, so they're not playing high-quality opponents outside of Oregon, which they did put up a pretty good fight against, and Ashton Jeanty had a pretty good game against them. I just think the fact, I don't know what it is, the allure of a player who plays both sides. There's no doubt that Travis Hunter has elite stamina. The guy takes the game so seriously. Like football is his life. And there's no doubt his commitment to the game of football is way up there with anybody else. But Ashton Jeanty, I think that I just view, and I know there were some Heisman voters who feel the same way as I do, but Ashton Jeanty changed the trajectory of his team's season based on his elite play. Boise State should not be in the playoff. They just should not be in the playoff. And when you think about, you've got Colorado, they have Shedeur Sanders, they've got Travis Hunter, they've got Wester. Deion Sanders has been in the portal. That's half of his job is playing in the portal and trying to get guys to come to Colorado. Boise State is not doing that. And so the fact that the Boise State is still playing outside of the Alamo Bowl, and it's solely based on Ashton Jeanty. There are some, you've got Travis Hunter who plays both sides of the ball, but he's got a first-round draft pick throwing him the ball, and then he's on the other side of the ball, and he's a stud. He is a stud. But Ashton Jeanty has had a greater effect on his team than I think Travis Hunter has, and I think that's objective. That's not even a subjective opinion. That's objective because Ashton Jeanty is still playing. He's in the playoffs. He has a first-round bye that he has earned. There's no one else on that team. They're all studs, but he is the, if he's not there, they're not even in a bowl game this year probably. And so I think that it was more of a popularity contest, and I'm a little disappointed that that's what it turned out to be. I know that I saw this like video of Deion Sanders or the University of Colorado sending out these like little advertisements for Travis Hunter for Heisman, where they spelled Heisman with an MEN, and it had Shador Sanders and Travis Hunter next to it. And it's all flashy. It's got gold leaf on it, and I get it. Like, there's more money. Deion Sanders has the name. Shador Sanders and Travis Hunter are both first-round draft picks. But goodness gracious, Ashton Jeanty, like, I don't care if he plays in the Mountain West or not. He has had a year that not many people have had. And so to not give him the Heisman seems like the wrong move. And so I'm sitting here in my house and have no authority on the Heisman voting. And I just have the opinion of myself, but I just can't believe, I mean, I can believe and I can't believe at the same time that it went the way it did. So I will jump off my soapbox. Congratulations to Travis Hunter. There is no doubt that you are an absolute stud and that you will be playing on Sundays. But this award is not about that. And so, Ashton Jeanty, I think you should have won it. And I hope that you do super well in the playoff and that you beat everyone other than the Tennessee Volunteers. So that's all I got.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what I'll add into this, and again, this is our last, we're not going to continue to stir this pot. It is done. They're not going to go back and change the votes, but I think just the quality of Jeanty's season was worthy of a Heisman. And I think they were in a pickle because they were either going to give it, hey, this is our chance to give it to somebody in the group of five. This is also a chance to give it to somebody on defense. Both things don't happen very often, so it's unfortunate. I think if there was three mediocre is too strong. If there was three like Jaden Daniels was a no-brainer Heisman, 55 touchdowns, like he was getting the Heisman. But the quarterbacks this year, nobody had that stellar performance. And years past, all you hear is, oh, it's a quarterback award. It's a quarterback award. So I would say if Jeanty was up against three middle-of-the-road quarterbacks in their statistics, I think he wins it. I think if Hunter was against three quarterbacks, it's a landslide. The fact that there was two of them, I mean, they both got over 2,000 votes. And, I just think it is what it is. But, yeah, Jeanty is probably stoked to be playing college football in the playoffs. And we digress and we move along. So,
yep.
All right. So let's recap the one game on the day. We have the Army versus Navy. And I posted something earlier. I won't quote the whole thing, but my question for you is this a beauty or the beast type of game? And so, not trying to give a shout out to Disney or whatever that is, but you watch these two teams play and you can be like, wow, this is spectacular football. You could also watch this game and say, that's not football. Like, this is 1937 football. They just haven't progressed. And respectfully, I'm team beauty in this. And so I not only from the side of, hey, these guys are serving our country and they have a lot more on their plate than the average college Division I prospect. And so it's just harder. So like running a simplified offense, they don't have as many talented quarterbacks and receivers that are wanting to show up. Those are typically prima donna type positions. And so not always going to get the prima donna talented wide receiver quarterbacks that want to go to the Army, And so in some ways you're kind of stuck with who shows up. And so usually it's going to be, hey, somebody athletic who can run the ball. But I love, like, especially Navy today. I'm like, I tweeted something to the effect of, they're going to run the quarterback 60 to 70% of the time and you just still can't stop it. The motions, the handoffs, it's always the triple option, but it's like the way the triple option has evolved to like almost the Sean McMay. Wow, I am very tired. Did not sleep last night, so hopefully that's the worst thing I say tonight. But yeah, that motion, that eye candy, the wheel route. Did you watch the game or not? Not so much.
I didn't,
I watched
unfortunately.
the
Nope.
whole thing with my son. We're mourning the loss of college football. Like,
Yeah.
I can get. I was about to turn on Division II football, So I was like, oh, Army Navy. This is a great game. So anyway, they did this quarterback handoff fake, did a nice little wheel route up the side, wide open touchdown. And so anyway, I'm on Team Beauty. Do you think it is beautiful to watch, or are you like, this is some beastly football? Give me Tennessee.
I think I'm going to have an opinion that is less popular than yours. I'm going to go on Team Beast for this. And like, let me preface this entire thing by saying, like, these guys, like you said, they are in the service, and they have so much more on their plate than the average college football player. But they're the only game today. The quarterback for Navy, what did he have? Let me just double check here. The quarterback for Navy had 204 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. I'm sorry, like that's not normal. And it's more about the pageantry and the fact. I mean, we've got our two, Army and Navy playing one another, and the rivalry that exists between those two teams and has existed for a long time. If you had to ask me, like, Jared Booker as the college football fan that you are, would you rather watch Tennessee and Ohio State next week or Army Navy? I'm going Tennessee, Ohio State, but
absolutely,
Jared. Okay, but as
that's
Booker, okay, yeah, fair enough. But like, you got to appreciate that these guys are out there like balling out, and they do have a ton more going on in their lives than the average college football player. So I'm going on Beast as far as, like, if you were sitting down and you were expecting to watch like just some elite football today, you probably didn't get that. But the effort and the quality of character behind every player that was touching the ball today, I just appreciate, like, those guys are laying more on the line than most. And so I don't know. I'm going Beast, but only partially because I just want to go against you on live stream. So
yeah. So you heard it here. Twitter X. TSP Booker does not support our troops.
Oh,
TSP
man.
Kevin does support our troops.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
No, nobody's hearing that. But no, I think why I enjoy it is because both teams play that same style. So it is strength on strength of like, hey, we know how to run this, we know how to stop this. And the rivalry, I mean, last week or the week before, I'm getting my weeks mixed up here, but rivalry week in college football is incredible. And this is like right up there with, not in the beauty of their offenses, but like these teams, they like each other, but they also don't like each other. Like the Navy coach getting his first win against Army, like he was hyped, like this is a big deal. And so I know I don't know if I'm on the unpopular side or you are. Maybe we'll post this of hashtag beauty or hashtag beast. Clearly my 3-year-old about to be 4-year-old daughter is rubbing off on me here, but I just thought it was a good thought. So my takeaway from this game is Navy actually out-armied Army. So what you had mentioned there about Blake, let me not butcher his name.
The Horvath?
Yeah, Blake Horvath. His statistics this game is pretty much what Bryson Daly has been doing all year long to like whoever they've played. And so I did think that was interesting early in the game. And I mean, from the start, it didn't look at any point like Army was going to win this game. But yet they're the 11-1 team. Again, that was sort of what I mentioned. Like, hey, I voted for Army that they were going to win in our poll, but like it just felt like Navy at 8-3. Like if it was a 3-8 Navy team, I'd be like, all right, this is gonna be a bloodbath. But like 8-3, I'm like, oh, this Navy team must have something. And so to me, they just kind of out armied Army. And so I know we don't play in a P. We don't play in all of Division One. We play Power Four conferences in our main campus Canton League, and so we haven't got to experience the Bryson Daly on our team or against us. But the dude finished with 428 fantasy points on the year. So like again, whether it's beauty or beast, the dude's scoring more fantasy points than your quarterback. And so like finished sixth in the Heisman voting. Like that being said, I think if Army makes a college football playoff, they probably lose by 50 against a Tennessee or a Penn State because once you have like superior athletes to play defense and when you have to throw the ball, as you saw in the Army, like as soon as Army had to throw the ball, it was like, oh man, this is not going to end well because that's not their game. Like, and so, yeah. One thing of note is Daly is a senior, so we celebrate the 400 points. But Blake Horvath is a junior, and my question for you and our listeners is, could he be the Bryson Daly in 2025? Fun fact, so he scored 303 fantasy points this year. That would have been the ninth best quarterback in our league. That's Horvath. That's not Bryson Daly. And so where this gets fun for us is we haven't really talked about it, I think, or fully decided if our listener league is going to be only the P4 or all of Division One. We've kind of talked pros and cons of that. If it's all of Division One, then wow, yeah, you're trying to figure out the Navy quarterback, and all of these smaller schools who have elite fantasy football performers. So, what are your thoughts on the listener league? Which way are you leaning? You are our listener league official commish. I'm the helper commish. But which way are you leaning as far as all of Division One or just the P4? And then what are your thoughts on Blake Horvath? I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's not going to hit the transfer portal. He's not going to transfer over to Army, which that'd be a kind of a crazy story. Can you imagine if he hits the portal and was like, you know what, boys, I'm gonna go play for Army. I'm gonna join the Air Force. Yeah, what are your thoughts on those two things? So P4 or all of Division One, and then Horvath for 2025. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so embarrassingly enough, this is how it goes on live stream. I need to plug in my laptop so it doesn't die on our 11 Russian bots. I'm going to say P4. I think that there's enough going on there that we would be able to stack our teams and be happy. Although it might be interesting to do all of Division One. So I would actually be just as interested in hearing what your thoughts are on that. So take it away.
Yeah, it's been interesting this year because I like that it's the bigger schools and it's less work, I would say, to have to keep track of all of these smaller schools. I think there was like a Texas State or Texas A&M, not Texas A&M, that's a big school. I think it was Texas State had like a really highly productive quarterback or wide receiver. I saw it on the Campus Canton Boys post. And again, if we go all of Division One, we're just talking significantly more schools to keep track of players. We've talked about doing smaller rosters, and so it will be more like an NFL experience, and your weekly waiver wire pickups will be of great importance. There will be guys available each week who can contribute to your team, and so it's going to be kind of a mesh of dynasty and season-long NFL where, hey, every week you can win the game, but also trying to figure out how that blends with dynasty, and you get to keep guys at the end of the year. So those of you in our listener league or those of you wanting to play, we would be open to that input of, hey, should we stick with just the P4, all the big schools, the guys or expand it out. One thing we ran into is Boise State, Oregon State, and Washington State are three bigger schools outside of the P4, but have, the Genty have some quality players that, in our league, we had guys last year, they had starters on Oregon State who now they're no longer, able to play. And so it's an interesting time in college football. And so we will continue to adapt. And yeah, so let us know what your thoughts are on that. Let's see here. The only other thoughts I have on this game, Heidenreich, 52-yard touchdown. He had a couple nice plays from the running back for Navy. Like Booker was kind of saying on the beach side of that argument is the quarterback play was tough to watch. Like there was several missed throws where probably turning on North Dakota State today would have been more exciting football. Quarterbacks making throws. Now that's maybe not a great example because North Dakota State also is like a run heavy team, but they can throw it as well. But might have gotten more exciting, flashy plays by turning on Division II championship games. I think it was semifinals today, but we digress. Me and my son were watching the Army Navy game, and we were loving every minute of it. So, any other thoughts? Again, you didn't watch this game because you hate the armed forces, but any other thoughts on this game? Booker does not hate the armed forces.
I do not hate the armed forces.
Yeah.
No other thoughts. I think that for me, the Army Navy game each year brings a little bit of sadness with it because I know that means the big, the vast majority of the college football season is over. So no thoughts. Obviously, Blake Horvath and Daly are studs. And so Daly is a senior, you said, correct?
Yeah.
Do a stupid question probably. Army, Navy, do they go to the NFL or are they are they committed to going and serving in the armed forces?
No, they can. I think they have to get it probably depends on their job and their training and stuff like that. I do think there's like an exemption or something that they have to get that is like an approval of like, hey, I have the ability to get drafted. And I'm just looking it up right now to see how many guys in the league. So we've seen Navy quarterbacks Keenan Reynolds and Malcolm Perry be drafting NFL, limited success. There we go. This is some recent guys. So we've got a guy in the league, Diego. I didn't want to pronounce his last name. For the Baltimore Ravens, I believe he's still on the roster. Kyle Eckel was on the Patriots in 2005. So it's very few and far between. Malcolm Perry, running back for the Dolphins in 2020. So it happens. I'm sure they just need to get approval. It's probably not going to be at the quarterback position. Like I'd be interested to see the Army won the best offensive line in the league. I could see some of those boys getting a look. They probably don't have like a pro day, and so it's more they have to get invited to the combine. So I'd be curious to see if any of those offensive linemen get that invite. But all right, let's move along. And again, we are sad because that's the only Division I game of the day. So usually in this segment during the season, we've been recapping all of the games, and then we get more into the fantasy football implications. Sidebar, it's on my Christmas list to get one of those little, I don't know, mixer boards where we can get cool sound effects on the podcast. So
even beyond like getting good Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi, I'm working on that too. But yeah, little sound effects, or hey, we got the TSP Awards. You know, that's the NFL thing. But anyway, we are going to give out some of our very first. They might come back next year. We might come up with some better ones. But so the 3 awards we have on the table is the best waiver wire pickup of the year, the one-hit wonder of the year, and the most valuable player. Yeah, so those are our 3 for this year. And again, we're having fun with this, but it is cool to look back on the year and celebrate those who did well, not so much on those who didn't. As we start here with the waiver wire pickup of the year, this was honestly one of my favorite parts of doing this with you. Was each week we were releasing a waiver wire article on X, video on YouTube, and just, hey, here's guys that we think you should pick up for your waivers. Again, in college fantasy football, there's not as much content as the NFL, so that's in part why we've wanted to start this podcast, to help bring more educational content, bring more hopefully comedic relief and humor to the college space, because the NFL is so saturated. We both love the NFL, but yeah, we've been focusing pretty heavy on the college side. So we've loved the waiver wire article, video. Our waiver wire pickup of the year is Jordan Tyson for Arizona State. Sadly, he is injured and we will not get to see him in the playoffs. But a few facts on him: he finished with 241 points, wide receiver 7, 75 catches, 1,101 yards, and 10 touchdowns. Again, I think it was week 5. He was still available in our league. So I was listening to another podcast, and they were talking about, like, I think in our league he was dropped in the off season, and so he was just sitting there. And so that's a good thought as we get into the off season, as we talk. You know, other teams are going to have a draft. That means teams might have to drop some guys that they don't want to drop. And so if you're in a spot like for me, I've got a lot of roster spots. I've got a lot of guys that if I drop them, I drop them. You know, where like someone like you, when you have to draft a bunch of new, fresh faces, you might have to drop somebody that you wouldn't necessarily want to. Those are great targets for if you're trying to rebuild or you're trying to fill in some gaps in your roster. So yeah, somebody could have picked up Jordan Tyson in the offseason for free. And yeah, he is our waiver wire pickup of the year. Just an outstanding performance. He is only a junior, so with the injury, it'll be interesting to see if he goes the NFL, comes back. I think I could see him doing either. I don't think he'll transfer with Sam Leavitt, Arizona State trending in the right direction. I feel like he probably either comes back or he goes to the NFL. So any thoughts on Jordan Tyson before we move along?
No, I'm just overall I'm impressed with what Arizona State has been able to do with Dillingham after last season. So Tyson obviously is one of those guys. I've got a team on fantasy football that has some names that like you probably just don't want to drop. Otherwise, Tyson is someone I would have been going after. But as you know, sometimes like those names you don't want to drop, they sit on the bench and don't do anything. And so Tyson is probably a bit of a league winner for some, but not the sexy name that you're keeping on your roster. And
we probably, again, this year is our first time, so it probably would have been better to like announce 4 names and then give a winner. I would say those in consideration for this: Diego Pavia for Vanderbilt. You picked him up for nothing early in the season. He was just a solid rushing quarterback. Desmond Reed for Pittsburgh. Again, he was picked up in our league. Excellent. Both of those guys were top performers at their position. So there's a lot of good options. we just happened to, that was, I just one of the names that I remember early on. That was like, oh man, that guy. And it's a bummer. We drink our own Kool-Aid. Like I'm picking up the guys that we think we should pick up. That was one I don't think I put in a high enough bid for him. But all right, so
what do you think? Like, tell me what you think about like Rashard Smith for SMU,
yeah,
Bashul Tootin for
yeah.
Virginia Tech. Those guys had.
I didn't look them guys up. Or I didn't look up Tootin to see if he was where he was. Rashard Smith was traded in our league pretty early on, and so I think he was pretty highly touted and not necessarily going to be available. I know he's had like a breakout of breakout years, but he might have been available in some leagues. In our league, he was traded, but not necessarily traded. It was anyway, traded early on. So, but yeah, definitely a great year and a breakout type performance. So, all right, we are going to go with our one hit wonder of the year. The concept here is who had the best single game performance and then did nothing the rest of the year. If internet, 12 of you out there, Russian bots, let us know. I'm sure there's somebody better. Truth be told, my whole family's sick. It's been a crazy weekend. So like we put in some work on this, but I'm sure you can find an even crazier lopsided. For me last year, it was Drake Dabney, TCU, tight end. Exactly. You've never heard of him again. In week one, he put up like 35 points and 2 touchdowns. And we've talked about like, don't chase the points. Just because somebody does something doesn't mean that they're going to continue to do that. Anyway, so Drake Dabney is the inspiration for this award. And we are going to give it to Reese Vander Z. Can you guess which college Reese Vander Z?
Iowa. I already know that because I looked at picking him up, and I'm actually kind of glad that I didn't because I looked at picking him up after the game that put him on your list. So
yeah, I think it was week 1 or 2. He had 23.6 points. I believe he's a freshman or a sophomore. 2 touchdowns. Cade McNamara, Iowa offense is here. We're back. And I don't know if it's more his talent or the offense in general that was bad. But yeah, he did nothing much of it. I think he had one other week over double digits, but pretty much a bunch of goose eggs and stinkers the rest of the year. And so he is our one hit wonder.
I got a question for you though. One hit wonder this year was it Cade McNamara?
Yeah.
Behind center. Next year, so Hank Brown from Auburn is officially, he entered the transfer portal and he's officially going to be an Iowa Hawkeye in 2025.
Okay.
Vander Z, I think Hank Brown had a pretty decent showing a couple of times that he came in for Peyton Thorne. I know that Iowa is traditionally they're good at defense and then they pound the ball. The passing game has not always been their high point, but I would be kind of interested in looking at Vander Z with Hank Brown. I like the coaching staff at Iowa. I think they're pretty. You don't think so?
For defense and special teams, yeah.
Well,
running backs,
I just think that's
not for passing the ball and wide receivers. And if I was Hank Brown, I'd be like, I don't know if that's an indictment on him or on the offense, but I'm not in that camp with Iowa. I think they are happy to win a game 12-5 and play that kind of football. So
I think Iowa, I'm just calling this right now. I think Iowa with Hank Brown next year, I think they turn into a bit more of a passing team. I actually do. I really do think that.
Okay. And they had another freshman on their team that really popped, and I don't know if he got hurt or something. McNamara went on a run there for like a game and a half, and people were losing their mind, and then he got benched.
Early on, right?
Yep.
In the season, yeah.
Okay, so if you want to take it away on our most coveted TSP award, yeah, take it away. Who's our MVP this year?
Absolutely. So, as Kevin said earlier, there's probably, I mean, all the Russian bots and those who are watching, you could probably send in a few. Well, let's see here. Sorry. You could probably send in a couple of names of some guys that you're like, no, this was the MVP. He helped me get into the playoffs, or he's helping me win the championship. But when we take it, like when we are voting on, or when we're thinking about who's going to be the most valuable player, this is someone who the draft capital was not there. Like, this is someone who potentially was on the waiver wire at the beginning of the year, but just showed out and had some incredible numbers that you were not expecting. And so, without further ado, the TSP MVP for this year. And there is a bit of an argument between myself and other people about how you pronounce this name, because I've heard it's Cam Scataboo, but it's pronounced Cam Scataboo, but the way it's spelled, I'm thinking it's Cam Scataboo. But we'll go with Cam Scataboo because that's what I heard people say on live TV. But this guy, I feel like I had eyed him. He might have been on our waiver wire last year, and I think the fact that he was playing on Arizona State, I was like, I'm not interested. I've got some other, whether it's Justice Haynes or Ruben Owens or CJ Baxter. I'm like, I'm not going to drop before those other two, like CJ Baxter and Ruben Owens, blew out their ACL. I was not going to drop either one of those for Cam Scataboo. However, like, Cam Scataboo ended the year. He was the number 2 overall scorer in the championship for Big 12. He tore it up. PPR beast, 274 yards and 22 touchdowns over the course of the year. So I don't know if you had him on your team, unless you were best ball, you probably had him sitting on your bench the first half of the year, or maybe the first quarter of the year. Oh, you're shaking your head a little bit. When I think of Arizona State, I just don't think like, hey, like, fire it up. But we've had Jordan Tyson, a wide receiver, and Cam Scataboo, and I mean, what is it? Will Levitt? Is it Levitt?
Yeah.
Or Sam Levitt? It might be Sam Levitt. There's just been some like high scorers on Arizona State, and I don't understand it.
Yeah, and again, people are going to think. I mean, it wasn't intentional that we had doubled up on the Arizona State. My face on that was, I don't think people are waiting until half the year on Scataboo or Scatabo, however you want to say it. Week 1, 13.6 points. The next 4, 32, 23, 35, 28, 35. So I don't think it took long to figure out that this dude is rolling.
Yeah, sir.
I also looked it up in our league. So last year, in those startup drafts, he wasn't a free agent, but he was a round 27 pick in our league. So like round 27. I mean, it's just, you're taking a flyer on a guy, and I would say that is a lottery ticket that panned out really well for the guy. And actually, our league champion is the one who had him, and is probably very thankful to have made that decision. So again, if you're doing startup drafts, those late round picks, you're looking for high upside type of guys. We've talked about how much we like the Big 12 for statistics. Those teams are more likely to get into 35, 40-point shootouts, where the SEC is quite happy to be in a 17-14 kind of game where your team might not score as much volume. So I would say going forward, or if you're in a startup draft this year, again, look for those situations, as well as the talent, as well as the high school statistics, the ratings on Rivals and 124 and all that stuff. But the opportunity that they're going to get is critical in fantasy football. And so that's where when you say passing and wide receivers, Iowa, I'm like, running backs maybe, or when you think of different schools, there's positions that are associated with it. And so that's what I'd be looking at of, hey, these are Big 12 guys that are on teams that are going to need to score points. And so they're going to have more opportunities. The biggest reason I liked him for our MVP is he showed up when you needed him most. As people experience on Thursday with Cooper Kupp in the NFL, it's so disappointing when your guys don't show up in the playoffs or in the championship. But in the championship game, he showed up and showed out. I don't have it in front of me. I do here. Championship weekend, he put up looks like 49.4 points in our league. And so that'll do, that'll definitely do. So it's all of the things. It's the draft capital, it's the coming out of nowhere, it's when you need him most. And when you look at our league and all the top performers, he's surrounded by quarterbacks, the Cam Wards, the Jalen Milrows. So to be that high as a running back, I felt is more valuable than having a top quarterback. Cam Ward was our top scorer, but going into the season, and you could give Cam Ward the MVP. Like they could have given Cam Ward the Heisman this year, and I think people would be like, "Oh, it's a quarterback award," but we get it, I think if Miami makes it to the playoff and finishes the season strong, he probably has a much stronger case. But anyway, that's our MVP for the year. Any final thoughts on that?
No, I just if you had asked me earlier, like before we started this year of college football, if the MVP, in our perspective or in our opinion, would have come from Arizona State, the answer would have been no. So, good job, Cam Scattaboo. Watching you, gosh, I'm kind of spacing. Who did they play in the Big 12? Was it
Iowa State?
Iowa State. Just watching, he is such a fun player to watch. Like he may not. He kind of comes off to me as someone who doesn't have he wasn't born with this elite talent, but he works hard.
Lunch pail kind of guy. Yeah.
Yep. And he just, I mean, the contact balance that guy has. He's running through tackles. I really appreciate that. And so I
feels
just
like
picking him up.
Feels like a future Detroit Lion, Pittsburgh Steeler, Baltimore Ravens, that kind of team, that kind of lunch pail team is going to be the one that's going to take him. I don't think he'll go super high, probably like 3rd to 5th round, maybe later, honestly, with how many good running backs there are this year. But if you can get Scattaboo in the 5th round, pair him with Gibbs and let him sit behind Montgomery for a couple years, oh man, he'll be a monster in a couple years. So very, very good. So that concludes our college season. Again, we mourn the loss, but we will move on, and we are Campus Canton focused in our main league and also in our content. And so the nice thing is our NFL will continue. And so the funny thing is we are both in playoffs in several NFL teams. Let's see here. You had one. So sorry. Let me frame this a little more, and then you can you can throw it in there. So we're gonna just over the course of the next week, we're gonna be posting some more polls to help. In part, in my Campus Canton League, my NFL team is the sit-start decisions I have are ridiculous, and so I've gone all in on my NFL team, and so it's challenging actually because I'm I don't know which of these really good players to put on the bench. Case in point, Cooper Kupp. It's hard to decide. Hey, should I bench Cooper Kupp or Devontae Adams? But that's the kind of stuff that I have. Anyway, so I think you have one sit start thought question that is going to be happening this week in week 15, and then we'll kind of talk week 16 and beyond because we have first round buys in several leagues. Shout out, we're doing pretty good this year. Other than like the league that I've been in the longest with Booker, I'm the commissioner, like sort of my home league. I'm just getting absolutely steamrolled, like 2-12 or something like that. Just not even competitive. And so every other league, I'm doing really well this year, probably my best year all around. But that our home league, you're in first place. I'm getting hammered. And so you have a question or a poll that we're going to put out tomorrow. So why don't you take it away with your week 15 question poll, and then we'll jump into some week 16 stuff on my roster.
Okay. All right. So as Kevin said, I'm somehow in first place. I have starting Jared Goff. Oh goodness gracious! James Cook, Tony Pollard, AJ Brown, Jerry Jeudy, Dalton Kincaid, Jaden Reed, St. Brown, Amon-Ra, Caleb Williams, and then my kicker is Brandon McManus, like any of you care. So the question is, as we go into the playoffs here, should I be starting Jaden Reed against Seattle? Now, just some context, Jaden Reed, let's see here. I mean, he's had some big weeks, Kevin. So against Philadelphia, I mean, this was week 1, but he had 32 points in week 1. Against Detroit, he had 0 points, but against Miami in week 13, he had 19 points. So Jaden Reed, wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers. He's got Jordan Love tossing him the ball, but there's obviously some other mouths to feed there. So it's either him or Scary Terry McLaurin with the Washington Commanders with, golly, how am I forgetting his name? New quarterback.
Jaden Daniels.
Jaden Daniels? Yeah. With Jaden Daniels tossing him the ball, I think. So the last 2 weeks, he's scored 21 and 27 points. I do think he's the play personally. I mean, currently I have Jaden Reed sitting on my starting lineup, but I've not had the chance to look at. I normally look at these. Like today is the day that I normally look at these and figure out what I'm going to do.
I thought you were going to say like 9:45 tomorrow morning.
9:45 tomorrow morning. Hey, you have Jaden Reed sitting on your starting lineup and Scary Terry sitting on the bench. Maybe you should make a change there. So I think I'm going to go ahead and move Jaden Reed off of my flex and throw Scary Terry on there. If you have any other opinions, feel free to let me know. But
I think the
I'm
counter,
going to go ahead and do that, but we will post.
Yeah, we'll post that poll tomorrow, see what the people are thinking. But the counter to it, again, opportunity and then matchups. And so to me, it's kind of no-brainer, Terry McLaurin. The argument against it is I could see Washington, Derek Carr's out. They're going to start not a rookie, what's his name? Jake Haener, which the small sample size you've seen, he can sling the rock. But that being said, Washington has a pretty good defense. I could see them blowing out New Orleans fairly quickly, which then takes the pass game out of the equation. So the argument for Jaden Reed is I think Green Bay Seattle was a more competitive game, so there could be more fourth quarter need for passing the ball. On the road, Seattle's playing well. This could be a sneaky shootout. So, but again, in Green Bay, there's a lot of mouths to feed. I think Terry McLaurin, it's only going to take one, and he is the one getting, I don't know who the second wide receiver is for the Commanders. It's probably like Zach Ertz, tight end. Like I don't know who their second guy is in targets and production. Like it is Terry McLaurin, and so it feels no brainer. But again, in these playoff emotional chips on the line, you want to think through all of these options, and so. But you don't want to overthink, and I'm the worst at that in the playoffs. It's like the overthinking and the like back and forth, where that to me is I'll sit there and I'll think way too much about, well, what if Seattle and Green Bay does turn into a shootout? What if they put up 50 points and he has 3 touchdowns? But it's like that scenario is so small where like we know Terry McLaurin is I think he's top 5 wide receiver this year. He's actually a guy I targeted and made a trade for. Shout out Gunnar Stockton. Thanks for helping me reel him in. But I was looking at his playoff schedule and I'm like, ooh, this is a guy I want. Tough matchup with Philly, but I knew if I could get to the championship game, he's got a nice matchup against Atlanta, and Atlanta can't stop a nosebleed. So, yeah, I would fire Terry McLaurin up. Even against Philly, I think he's going to have a little bit of revenge of, you held me to 2 points last time, I'm going to get mine this coming week. And so I still hope the Birds win the game, but I think Terry's is the play of trust your studs. Obviously, again, Cooper Kupp did what Cooper Kupp did, but trust your studs is the moral of the story most times.
Before we move on, I've got we didn't even discuss this before the pod. Quick question. We don't even need to have a huge discussion about it. But Jerry Jeudy against this is my team. Jerry Jeudy against Kansas City with Jameis Winston slinging the ball as Jameis Winston does, or Brian Thomas Jr. for Jacksonville. He's playing against the New York Jets. And I know that Trevor Lawrence is out, but they are both projected to have 14 points each. We don't have to spend a ton of time. Who do you go with just right off the bat?
Evan Ingram went down this week, so that's a big loss. I just don't think that Jacksonville is going to still target. I don't think Brian Thomas Jr. in the offense this year is that guy. I think he's but again, 4 for 90 and a touchdown is great. You'll take that. Jerry Jeudy. I almost traded for Jerry Jeudy, but I was like, I can't trust Jameis Winston and Jerry Jeudy in the playoffs, But people were probably thinking that about Joe Flacco and David Njoku last year, and like they carried teams in the playoffs, fantasy football playoffs. So I think it's Jeudy against the Chiefs. Like, well, here's the problem with that: is the Chiefs. I saw a graphic today that was like, wow, the Chiefs are out of control. They're one of 5 teams to not have scored 30 points. Do you see this graphic floating around on X? There's like 5 teams in the NFL who haven't scored over 30 points. The Chiefs and then the other 4 have like a combined 10 wins. And so combined. And so anyway, I think the Chiefs win. I think Jameis throws the ball. Judy's he's been targeting Jeudy. I'd go Jeudy over trusting the Jaguars. The Jaguars are a mess. I mean, Brian Thompson could go off, but in the playoffs, it's obviously going to be matchup dependent. Could I see Brian Thompson? Like, I think Brian Thompson has 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. Thomas has 2 touchdown, 100-yard upside, where like Jeudy sort of has it, but maybe Jameis doesn't go off this week. But the safety, I would probably say, hey, Cleveland's going to throw the ball, whether they're winning, whether they're losing. Jameis is going to give some to the Chiefs. He's going to give some to his guys. So, yeah, give me Jeudy in that one.
Okay. Thank you. I will start Jeudy. We'll let you know how that goes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we will. We'll have to post that one tomorrow, too. See what the folks think. So my plan over the next coming week, and I haven't fully committed to, like, I'm going to give my fantasy football team to the will of the people. But I'm close. I mean, there were some sit-start decisions earlier in the season where I was wrestling, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to trust the results of this poll. And most times it's worked out. We're like, hey, it takes the emotion out of it. And again, I want to be emotional. I want to play the game, but I want to win. And so I'm like, if Kevin's emotion is getting in the way, then hey, so if this happens to me, it might happen to you as well, those of you guys out there. So I would say use X. It's one of my favorite things to do, is engaging with people, answering my opinion on these sit-start decisions. but there's a lot of people answering questions and polls being posted, fantasy football groups. So get out there, post your stuff, and you will get some great feedback from crowdsourcing that will help you take the emotion out of it. So we're going to just jump into one dilemma I have, and maybe next week or over the course of this coming week we can dive into some more. So at quarterback, I am, let me pull up my notes here. So my three quarterbacks, and bear in mind the guys I'm going up against in the playoffs all have elite tier quarterbacks. I actually had a trade in concept for Josh Allen, and then our trade deadline had passed, and I misread the days, and so I was about to just give the farm for Josh Allen, missed it. So I've got my middle of the road guys, and I'm trying to decide who's going to go off from these three. So I've got Justin Herbert versus Denver, Baker versus Dallas, Russell Wilson versus Baltimore. So Herbert versus Denver is the 7th ranked defense. Dallas is the 29th. Baltimore is the 28th. I get into trouble on Sleeper at times because it gives you that little green indicator if it's a good matchup, red if it's bad. Sometimes I trust that too much, and it's just like, man. So in this, if you trust that little green ticker, you say, okay, bench Herbert, start Baker and Russ. Baltimore is a green matchup, but everything I know about the Baltimore defense for my entire life, they are not a good matchup. Pittsburgh, Baltimore is going to end 13-10. I just know it. And so, yeah, of those three, what's your gut? And again, I'll start posting these polls, once this week 15 wraps up. But just getting into our NFL leagues here a little bit. Of those three quarterbacks, which way would you lean?
I don't think you're going to like what I have to say.
And I have to listen. I can, but
that's true.
I will listen. I don't have to do it, is what I should say.
Fair enough. Okay, so listen when I say I actually think before you even gave your spiel, I don't know why, because I do not like Russell Wilson. I never have. Being from the state of Washington, him at Seattle, I don't know. There's a lot of quarterbacks that I would rather draft on my fantasy football team than him. I actually think Russell Wilson is the play here.
Yeah.
I don't know why though, because you're exactly right. Baltimore.
So who's the bench then? Who's the bench is the issue. So start Russell, but then do I bench Herbert, or I need two? So it's a super flex. So we're starting two quarterbacks, which that could be another debate with my team is should I start an elite skill player over a quarterback? I don't see a scenario where I would do that. It's just
I think you play Russ and Herbert. I think you do not play Baker because I don't foresee that being a shootout because Dallas is anemic. They're inept on offense. So I don't think Baker has to do a ton to get that W.
See, but Baker has been so good this year. But the thing with Baker this year is Tampa is more run heavy than they've been in the past. And so he's had a couple games where he doesn't get a touchdown, but they score like 35 points and they just run the ball into the end zone. Now, the one thing I'll retort on Baker is I don't know if I retort myself there, but Mike Evans needs to get his 1,000-yard streak to maintain his Hall of Fame journey that he's on right now. And so he's got 10 or 9 in a row. It was a big deal last year that Baker doesn't want to be the first guy to do it. I don't know how many yards he needs, but he needs to keep averaging something like 90 yards a game, which makes me think Baker's going to be slinging the ball. So, but yeah, that goes into, okay, Baker has a better matchup, but they might beat the Cowboys pretty handedly and not need to throw the ball. I might need to do some more research on the Cowboys' run defense and see how their run defense matches up. I know that Diggs went out today with something. season ending. So at cornerback, their ability to throw the ball, it's going to be inside, good weather, Sunday night game. Baker's been so good, man. I don't. This is going to be the challenge, and I'm probably going to lose my matchup by like. That's with my team. That's one of my challenges. It's like every week I know I have the winning pieces on my roster. It's just like knowing and not even like bragging. Like I'll have to like post my team or something, but it is just an abundance of riches on my team. I would say Baker has kind of tailed off as of late. Um, weeks 5 through 9, like he was not under 20 points any of those weeks. But the last 4 games, he's only been over 20 one time. And so I think that might actually seal it for me. I'll be interested to see what he does against the Chargers this week. But that I think we might have just answered this in talking it out. But I will be interested to see the will of the people. But yeah, trusting the guys that are hot at the right time, I think is key over, hey, what is he on the year? He's the number 5 quarterback on the year. Like he's ranked higher than Russ Wilson. I have to start him, like I need to take the emotion out of that. Anyway, we'll get into this more. And again, if you guys have start questions on your rosters, hopefully you win your playoff matchups this weekend. And we will continue to fight for those championships. But we're gonna wind it down here. So our off-season schedule, we're still figuring this out. But obviously, during the college football season, we've had longer format podcasts, 2 hours plus of recapping the day. There's a lot to talk about. In the off season, it's probably going to look like shorter episodes, but more frequent. Like we might release 2 per week, and that way, well, hey, quarterback rankings. Here's part 1. Here's part 2. Running back rankings, part 1, part 2. So we're still working that out of what that will look like, but we are going to continue to do podcasts and release content throughout the off season. Again, we have a listener league, so I'm sure we will have some podcasts and live streams around that. One idea, just to toss out there for you, is I don't even remember which league or what it was, but they did a live stream of the entire league drafting at one time. I was like, that would be pretty cool. Like just a giant Zoom call of guys. We could do it with a mock, and then we could do it with a real thing. So we'll workshop that and see if it's something we want to try and tackle in year 1. Maybe that's a year 3 or 4 thing. It's been big news this week. The transfer portal, college free agency is buzzing. I would say it's only getting started. Coaches haven't even really been getting fired and hired yet. Like once the playoffs is over, the bowl games are over, the floodgates are gonna open even more. As coaches move on and change, kids are gonna change their mind, and so people are committed, but that means less and less in 2024, 2025. And so, yeah, we will definitely have some portal talk. Then the draft season, combine, any of the off-season stuff. We talked about this a couple episodes ago, but one thing I really put more capital in this year than in the past was the spring games. That helped me in some, that burned me in others. Dominic Lovett lit it up in the Georgia spring game. He had kind of a year where I thought I got a deal trading for him from your team. But I probably put a little too much stock into his spring game performance and thinking, but it's a piece of the pie. It can help you. Hey, this guy is, he is the wide receiver 1. I think for that Georgia example, their passing game as a whole was down, and so maybe not as much of a reflective on him, but the entire unit, had an off year. So, and then so our closing remarks here, you had an announcement today, and we're kind of working this out. So some bowl mania. So why don't you take it away, take us home, put us to sleep on the East Coast, better be already asleep. If you're listening to us at 2 a.m. on the East Coast, you're the real ones. You are the real ones. Or you're just
You're either the real ones, or you need to like check if you've got some therapists
you go to bed.
You're in network to like
in network.
Yes. So an idea that we had this morning is that we're going to go ahead and start so ESPN every year has a Bowl Mania Pick'em contest where you can, they got the list of all of the bowls and you pick them. And I don't know what exactly you win if you do well with ESPN. But I'm going to post a link for the TSP podcast to join our group. Officially, we are going to start the scoring on Tuesday, December 17th for the Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl. That's Memphis against West Virginia. And so there's a couple games that happened today, but we're not going to count those to give some listeners some time to set up their group and make their picks. So I'll send a link after this podcast if you'd like to go ahead and join. We've got one other person as well as Kevin and myself that are already in there. And the winner is going to get whoever wins the national championship. They always have a national championship hat. And we're going to go ahead and send the winner of that Bowl Mania Pick'em that hat. And so I'll send, I'll post the link, and then within the group, I'll go ahead and put some of the details about information that we need in order to make sure that we get the right person, the right hat. But this is the first year. It'll probably be easier to win the hat this year than it will be in the years to come, because Kevin and I we're committed to this thing. And so pretty excited. Again, I'll post the link. Go ahead and join. It doesn't cost you anything. It's the ESPN Bowl Mania. So it's available to you, but we have our own group with the TSP podcast, and the winner will get the championship hat. Details in the actual group, link on X. So
again, if you enjoy this podcast, this live stream, follow us on X at SidelineFFPod. You can follow me at TSP_Kevin. You can follow Booker at TSP_Booker. Again, any of you who support the troops and think Booker is off his mind, go ahead and let him know on X tonight, tomorrow. Just blow up his mentions with that. We love our troops. We love that also. Anyway, I'm gonna go. Shout out to my little man. We made it through in a whole podcast, hour and 13 here. It's probably the best stretch of sleep he's gonna have all night. So, I love that. And until next time, have a good night.
Bye, everybody.